What's up guys, it's Chrome playing Siralim Ultimate, and we are now going over a pretty strong, or let's say satisfying Paladin build together with some devils. So for the Paladin itself, he is of course striking with Retribution. After your creatures take damage from attack or spell, they deal damage to the enemy equal to 25% of the damage taken. And there is a little bit of a limitation. This damage cannot exceed 300% of your creature's maximum health. In addition, some bonus damage via Art of War, same as Crusade. Some survivability via Divine Intervention, so if your creatures take fatal damage, they have a chance to set their health to 1. Quite impactful in there. So with Divine Wrath, you deal a little bit of bonus damage when you are defending. However, if you provoke, your creatures will also defend. So this is pretty much always the case if you are provoking. Now, Execution Sentence is quite important for this one. After your creatures are killed, they deal damage to all enemies equal to 100% of the amount of damage they dealt with Retribution in the current battle. And this can decide the battle to your favor pretty often. Like I see this line pretty often in the battle history. Glory will increase your lowest stat by 25%. It helps, but it's also kind of whatever. So with Hand of Light, after your creatures deal damage with Retribution, they recover health equal to 20% of the damage dealt. It helps, so it's a little bit of like life leeching attacks. Nothing too crazy, but it certainly helps. So with Light's Augmentation, your creatures will have plus 75% bonus defense while they are provoking. It of course helps, but since I have invested a ton into attack, this is kind of debatable. This might be very good if the build would aim into another direction. Miraculous Recovery. After your creatures provoke, they recover 50% health. Now, seeing this again, I forgot to implement a trait on my team. So if one creature provokes, the entire team provokes. But however, I'm taking this right now how it is, because it is already pretty strong. May I change this one at the end of the video. Perseverance, like less damage taken when provoking, of course pretty helpful. Now finally, a little bit of comboing starting with Reckoning. After creatures provoke, they attack a random enemy, and this one is quite important because it can trigger your spell slot if you are using some swords, which is the case for this one, and we are using Panic Attack, which lets your entire team attack. So this one is certainly very important. So with Seraphim, at the start of battle, 50% of your creature's defense is added to their health. In general, it is quite helpful, but for this one in particular, as I said, I've invested a ton into attacks, into the attack value, so this is kind of debatable in how much value it has. Unbound for this one, relatively helpful. Like in general, these combo stuff, provoke and then defend, or provoke and then attack. These type of perks or anointments have pretty insane potential, but for this one it's not quite unleashed. And lastly, Zeal will again just increase your Retribution damage. Now let's go over the build in the planner. To the left, Bleed Out to help with some survivability right from the start on, as you might get killed pretty early on. Celerity from the Monk, so if your creatures are dodging, you get even more counter attacks, quite helpful with the spell slots. Dampen Harm, so this goes very much in line with the perk from the Paladin that you may let you survive with 1 HP. So if your creatures take fatal damage, they might survive. And then from the Siege Master, it is the very powerful Thorns. And to be fair, this one, like, I could maybe delete a ton of traits and perks and anointments, and with Thorns alone, this would already work. Last but not least on the anointment list, Revelations to help with some survivability. Still, truth been told, this can also get quite risky if a lot of your creatures are getting killed. Now, going over the actual creature team, everything is implemented to create some sort of uphill battle against the enemies, forcing a little bit of silence with contagion, like in the middle from the venomous clutcher, so enemies will be afflicted with silence, so they pretty much have to fight with normal attacks. I have increased these devils dodging with agility aura. It's not much, like the base chance will be increased by 40%, and because those guys, I don't think they have the greatest speed stat, like their base speed is pretty low, or rather on the lower end. Yet it might help here and there, although, you know, there might be better stuff. May I switch agility aura out at the end of the video. Now, of course, the main idea is to get bonus damage via all the Devil's Trade. These will also get shared with the Krampus and You Ruined Christmas, so all of the devils have pretty much all of those innate traits. Details matter, so your creatures always take damage as if they are strong against their enemy's class. Then there is Bloodlines, so your creatures always deal damage as if they are strong against enemy's class. In addition, if at some point enemies getting killed, there are 3 devils with the Outnumbered trait, which was a little bit random. So the more enemies are killed, the more damage these 3 guys will deal. There might be something more logical or better, but still I wanted to follow this idea of creating an uphill battle for the enemies, or let's say a little bit of snowballing. So also a little bit of defense mechanism with Shall Not Pass, so after your creatures take damage that exceeds 25% of their maximum health, they will gain a barrier that absorbs damage equal to 100% of the damage taken. It helps here and there. Also, together with Shield Aura, they will get a 35% chance to gain Shelled, which of course will negate an attack or a spell entirely. In addition, the pretty strong Katarina's Return, so when your creatures take damage at all, they recover 30% health. So everything is somewhat synergistic to create this kind of a snowball effect. Tons of bonus damage, tons of defense, a little bit of survivability with revives. But yeah, overall I'm pretty satisfied with this entire idea, or how synergistic everything is. Now let's go over the creatures' stats and artifacts really quick. Practically everybody has increased attack stats. This is like the most logical. And of course everybody is wearing a sword with a ton of attack and critical strike chances. Only a little bit of vulnerable on damage on this one. The rest is pretty much the very same idea. Also, those stones, they only got some stat bonuses and nothing else for the most part. So for this one I haven't tested how far I can go with the difficulties. So let's go to the Gates of the Gods right away. I got some wins earlier on. I think I got the only win was against Yezeros, but the rest I got today. And to my surprise, even a win against Muse. So let's do this one an additional time and see how it goes. Could also be a pretty big fat nuke right away. We have one revive to begin with. Extremely close, but it was a win. Yeah, kind of lucky because I think this is... it's hard to say, but in my opinion it might be one of the hardest fights at the gates. With Lista we just have to survive. Not so sure if we can do that. Here we would need the Master Spell. Right, pretty convincing win. Didn't even die once. Like, for the most part I can die pretty much early on, but didn't happen. Maybe on one creature if I saw that correctly. Vulcanar might be one of the easier ones. Even though it can take a moment. Two more kills on him. How many kills is it? Okay, 5 times. Maximum of 5 times. For whatever reason I thought it's 3. Aren't we above 5 already? There we go. Zonti is partially not so easy. We might get nuked right away. was wonky for a moment. There we go. Ilian might be a little bit too tough. And like all the class switching. Aurum might be an easier one. Maybe do Shalan last. This would be a test of how sturdy everything is, like how long we can survive. Already dealing more damage than I was expecting. Okay. There we go. I think I lost one time at the Gate of the Gods, if I recall this one correctly. So practically almost all fights were first try win. So yeah. Yeah, before I forget, let's switch out one outnumbered with Habub. After creatures that belong to your most common race provoke, the others provoke, which is quite impactful for this one. Also, before I forget, ×2. This stone has a trait called Shock Aura, so enemies will take some damage, some reflect damage when they are attacking or casting a spell based on their speed, if I recall this one correctly. It's a minor detail, but it's helping. Now let's see. Okay, this one is game difficulty 5. Let's go to Azure Dream. Okay, so for to this would be, of course, a winning fight. Let's not fuck around and go to difficulty 9. Let's go Azure Dream again. I probably lose. Can't even deal damage so far. There was a revive via Revelations. Battle fatigue kicking in. Enemies are frozen, 3 of them. Yeah, so it's winning, but I guess a big portion of that was the frozen debuff. So enemies weren't able to actually do some turns. However, it was winning on difficulty 9. I'm pretty satisfied with this one for how synergistic everything is. Also the idea of the somewhat holy Paladin together with some devils, evil devils, like this yin and yang type thing. Yeah, cool stuff, I guess. Whatever, thanks for watching, I'm out, see you in the future.